Hello, people of the internet, and welcome back to Rushman Productions, where I talk about everything movies, comics, and superheroes. So, the Clayface movie has started shooting in a real set of a Gotham City. There have been many set pictures that have been out there of GCPD, the Gotham City Police, and some of these police inspectors' outfits as well. There have been many kind of buildings covered with some of these railings and stuff like that. So, yes, the DCU Clayface movie is officially in production and it will take place in Gotham, at least a part of it. That is what we know. However, we are here to talk about a problem that is prevalent with this particular Clayface that people are kind of encountering and kind of talking about regards to Clayface. And we are here to talk about that problem and how that problem actually doesn't make sense, and it is actually the public perception, it is actually the people's perception that is making this kind of argument, which is mostly false. So we will dive into that. But first of all, my new song Coffin is out right now. It is my personal favorite from my mixtape, so go check it out. And also check out my posters on printmyposter.in. You can check out all these cool designs, not just by me but other artists as well. So go, yeah, check it out. Link is in the description. So anyways, let's first discuss what the problem with the DCU Clayface is. So this particular movie is going to be a body horror movie. It is going to be a type of psychological turmoil kind of movie where a person who is not kind of aligned with their own physical self, they want to change how they look. So this is the story of the Clayface, that he isn't kind of embodying himself. He wants to change how he looks. He wants to change his appearance. So he develops this formula, and when he induces that formula into himself, he changes into this kind of mushy kind of thing which he can form and shape into, and that is Clayface. That is the basic story of it. There are many iterations of it. You can pick and choose which one you like and which one you prefer the most. We'll see how the movie takes it on, but this is the main story of what Clayface is. And now this movie is going to be a body horror type of movie, so we will see many kind of these gory and disfiguring things and, let's say, limbs and pieces of human body in there, which will be kind of unsettling for some people. At least that is how this movie is kind of marketed towards to us up till pre-production. And now we will get to know, once we see the trailer, of course, what kind of tone it is going towards. Of course, this tone of movie, like the tone of this movie, will be different from Superman, from Supergirl, from every other project of the DCU, because the DCU in particular is not like a serialized thing. It is a very kind of Star Wars type of thing. It is a very kind of Game of Thrones type of thing, where they pick up a story from an already existing universe and they tell us what is actually happening in there. And that is what the DCU is. That is what James Gunn wants to produce. That is what James Gunn wants to be at the helm of, and that is why they are picking up stories from this part, from that part, then they're showcasing it. Of course, there will be serializing stories as well, as the Superman saga is in the works, which is a very serialized thing, but majority or many of these things will be kind of interlinked, but yet their own separate pieces and where they are. Now, the important thing or the problem that people are discovering with this Clayface thing is that his appearance in Creature Commandos season 1. So what has happened is, almost at the end of Creature Commandos, we get to know that Clayface has been living this double life, and like he had become into someone else and he was living in someone else's home. So Clayface has took on the life of someone else, which is a part of the character, which he does quite in fact regularly. And so he was kind of teaming up with Princess Ilana, if I'm remembering it correctly, the name of this woman, and he was teaming up with her to kind of manipulate the Creature Commandos, the Argus, or the Task Force M, as it was called at that time, to kind of not interfere with what was happening in their whole region. Now, when we saw this Clayface, it was kind of confirmed that, of course, there is a Gotham in DCU, there's a Clayface in DCU. In fact, we saw a cameo of DCU's Batman in this Creature Commando series. And now what people are not settling well with is that this iteration or this kind of personality of Clayface that was shown in this series was not sitting quite well with their kind of formation of the personality of Clayface in the movie that is being produced. So they're kind of not at terms with the way Clayface was portrayed in Creature Commandos and how he will be portrayed in this body horror film. So this will of course be an origin film, like how did Clayface come into being. So this kind of takes place after that, how like after Clayface became Clayface, or like the guy who became Clayface, how he went on with it and what he did afterwards to it. So Creature Commandos come afterwards in that timeline, or else we will also see these kind of flashbacks in the film, that this is how Clayface got to be Clayface, then what he's currently doing, and let's say after the events of Creature Commando, what he's currently doing. And this is where kind of with a thing which is not settling down with people. And the reason is, of course, they do not want this kind of a serious film to give this a particular serious character and change it into something so fun and like so, let's say, outlandish, which was in Creature Commandos. I mean, sure, at the end it is Clayface, it is the same person, it is the same character, but it was portrayed in such a different light. It will be portrayed in such a different light with the movie itself, and that is what people are not sitting well with. Why, if you ask? I think it is just that people are watching too much of anime this time, because many times personalities and characters in anime, even if they go on with an arc, let's say the side characters, not the main characters, and even though they have gone through some kind of character building, at the end they kind of have this same kind of personality, they have these same kind of traits most of the time, and this is what kind of has got to people's mind too much, and they cannot see a character who is kind of has these sort of fears and has these kind of sort of things that have happened to him, to in such a way where it is portrayed so funny and in a very outlandish manner, in kind of a joke kind of a manner, which of course it wasn't, but it was in that kind of a way at to a point. And that is where people are kind of not aligning with this, and that is why I think it is really, really good to take this Clayface character and show in a different light with this movie, to show in a serious tone. And it is for people to understand that a character changes, a person changes. We will get to know what will happen with his origin, with his story, his, let's say, life, and how he got there. But in the end, we also have to see how that character grows, how that person, that personality, that character evolves over time, over this universe, how he interacts with different people. And that is very important for, let's say, a making of such a cinematic universe, where people or like personalities or characters are not stale. People and characters change over time, which is very important with James Gunn's movies. If you were to see Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and you see Star-Lord in Guardians of Galaxy Volume 3, even though there are many personality traits that are similar, overall he has changed so much as a character. So much. And this is what James Gunn wants to do. He wants characters to change, and that is why he allows a character like Clayface to have this kind of thing in Creature Commandos, then have his own movie as well. And that is what makes it exciting for us to see as well. How these characters react, how these characters interact with different people, with different characters. And that is what it makes exciting for us to see as viewers, as a viewer, to see how these characters play out in this larger universe, how these characters branch out into their own things. And that is what is very interesting about it. And yes, of course, that was the kind of thing that I wanted to discuss, that it is not actually a problem. It is only a problem with people who want to see a character in a very stale light, who want to see a character in a very similar way throughout this entire thing, which I don't feel is the right way to look at movies and media as well. Because imagine Superman being the same literal person in 9 movies. Like, can you imagine how boring that would be? A Superman has to evolve. A Batman has to evolve. Batman has to change with time. Going on with movies, going on with this arc, this bigger arc. And that is why it is important for us to see these characters in different lights, these different shades, these different emotional spectrums, these different ways of interacting with other characters. That will also change. And that is why it is important for us to allow these characters to breathe in their different aspects, their different character traits. And that is the reason I just made this video. So yeah, don't kind of, settle down on a singular pillar of a character, be it Batman, be it Superman too, because these characters, these main characters, will be stereotyped to the end, literally to the end. But you have to escape that by, of course, allowing them to be their own thing, allowing them to grow, allowing them to be something more than they were just before. So yeah, that was it. That was like this thing that I just wanted to put on forward to the people who consume comic books, to consume comic book media, to consume comic book movies. And that is just a thing that I wanted to say. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next.